Okay, we're going live here. We're trying to get Gene on, so if y'all just bear with me for a second, we'll see if we can get Gene in there. As soon as we can get Gene to pop on, we'll get him brought in here and see if we can get him up. This is the first time I've done a joint webinar, so please just bear with us for just a moment while I wait for Gene to join in. So today we're going to discuss all about the Price-A-Dent, and Gene has been using. All right, looks like we're getting him in here.
All right, can you hear me, John?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you click on your camera and make your camera live?
If I can find the camera, absolutely. So I am not actually seeing a camera option here, buddy.
Okay. All right. Well, as long as we got voice, let me keep adding you more options, and we'll make sure that I can do this as an amateur webinar specialist here. We'll get this up. So, are you still in there, Gene?
Yeah, I'm in here. Sorry, it muted me. Let me see if we can start the video. It says the video is disabled on your end.
Oh, aha, look at that. All right.
All right, let's try this again. Camera.
There we go. Look at that.
There we are. All right. Good deal.
Okay. So now, Gene, you've got a PDR company. Why don't you go ahead and just tell everybody just a little bit about yourself and your PDR company and where you're located at.
Sure. So obviously my name is Gene Fetty. We're based here just south of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. I've got a retail brick and mortar shop. I've got another full-time wholesale tech that works for us, a part-time tech coming into the mix, and a full-time office manager that handles all of our inbound leads. And Mobile Tech RX is the software we choose to run everything with. I've been a tech for 16 years now and love working on big smashes, which is what we're going to go over today, I believe.
Yeah. So we're going to talk. I'm going to go ahead and put up our little disclaimer here, because we are going to be discussing everything about pricing. You're going to see some money in here, and now this time it overlapped. All right, here we go. So when Gene and I are discussing pricing in this, do keep in mind we're not telling you what to charge and how you should charge it. What we're going to discuss is the process and by which you can enter that information into Mobile Tech RX, specifically within Price-A-Dent. And Gene, you use the tactical dent guide most, don't you?
Actually, I use the Paul Corden guide the most.
Okay.
But the reason I reached out and wanted to go over this particular estimate with you is the tactical has some advantages for writing a complex estimate, which is what we're going to be going over today. But I typically subscribe to the inches and factors.
Okay.
That's the easiest way to price. But yeah, the tactical was the perfect fit for this repair.
Well, I will pop my iPad up here on the screen, and then we can kind of, I'm into the tactical dent guide.
Perfect.
And for those of you who, you played with them just a little bit, you've looked at each of the guides, you're not sure what they are, you can view that guide, and both anything that's actually pre-programmed into Mobile Tech, you can look at them as they are shared publicly. So you can print that out if you need to look at it, get that. If you want much deeper info, you can go to the website of the maker of each of those guides in there and actually get an understanding of how they do this. What we're going to talk about with Gene was the whole process that he went through in order to write a thorough estimate and use it in a real world situation.
Exactly. And I don't know if we can share any of that video I sent over to you, or if not, maybe we can put it in the Mobile Tech RX Facebook group where we're live. So at some point people can go back and sort of see exactly the type of damage we were dealing with.
Yeah, and you sent me 4 versions of that, and we'll kind of discuss that after we get done. I'll get those edited in, and I think you have another one on your that you personally a whole video that you personally put out on your Facebook page, isn't it?
It's actually currently just in the ARC group for the techs who are ARC certified.
Okay.
You know what? Well, I'll go ahead and I'll get the before and after video together, and I'll put it up on the Dent Repair Now Facebook page to share that. So yeah, certainly everybody can go reference it there.
Yeah, we'll cross-reference it, and then we're going to take what Gene did on this, and we're actually going to turn it into a tutorial video for use of Price-A-Dent. So I guess let's start. We're just going to open up a fender panel in here. Or actually, no, let's go into the door. Your door was a significant damage on this particular truck. So this was a deer hit that went all the way down the side of a Ram pickup, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it started at the front fender and finished up with a what was clearly like a Hulk smash final deer hit into the bedside. So the damage got progressively worse as we moved back the vehicle.
Okay, so it started at the front fender and the deer just kind of flopped its way all the way down. So you went through both doors. Now, one of the things you called me when you were working on this, and one of the things that we discussed was the use of round, the crease, or the 10 by 10 inch larger. So
exactly.
Why don't you tell us a little bit that the rear door on this truck the whole door got caved in and then sprang back out. Now it didn't affect the intrusion beam at all, but
no, the intrusion beam was still straight. Right.
Yeah, it covered kind of the whole length of the door. So why don't you walk us through a little bit of what you did, and I'll kind of poke it on the screen here as we go.
Okay, perfect. So anytime I'm looking at a big smash or some complex damage, I think it really pays for us as PDR technicians to be educated on what a conventional repair would take to make this right. So on this door being hit completely front to back, top to bottom, we were working along the assumption that we were looking at either a door skin or a complete replacement, both of which are fairly pricey repairs. But there's going to be a max. So I like to, you can use comparative pricing in here. In fact, if I give you year and model, can you jump into comparative pricing on here, or do you need a whole VIN?
No, I can punch it in there. So just give me a moment. Let me just go back and get rid of this estimate here. So what was our year, make, model?
2015 Dodge Ram quad cab.
All right. Just as a correction, there's no such thing as a Dodge Ram anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a Ram quad cab. I'm old school. I guess I'm showing my car age, right?
Yep. I'm very guilty of this very same thing myself.
So I'll talk through some of this damage while you're pulling that up. So our damage, that door measured about 42 inches across. You know, that's edge of door to edge of door. Like John said, the panel went in and it sprung back out. So we had a high spot, you know, especially wrinkled, running with the intrusion beam from the top right to the bottom left of the beam. And then with that, vertically at both edges of the door, probably 10 or 12 inches of damage going up, and that spread out 4 to 6 inches across the board into the door. So if you can picture, I mean, that's a ridiculous amount of moved metal on a panel. So it looks
Yeah,
like you're back in.
let me add one quick note here, Gene. If anybody has any
Sure.
questions, just go ahead and pop them up. We'll try to knock them out as we can. I see Andrew Ray, you had asked about what price guide it is. We're using the tactical price guide on this at the moment. So now, Gene, you said that dent was 42 inches. So when we first enter into the size category, we have the ground, the crease, and the 10 by 10. Now, were you were coming in, you used the 10 by 10. Now, did you tap in on those boxes and go ahead and change that to read 42 inches?
So there's a little bit of a flaw here. So there's a workaround for this. So if you do 42 inches, so go ahead and put your 42 in on either side. It doesn't matter because it's square inches.
Yeah.
You can't take that other number any lower than 10, right? If you try to go to 9, so if you went to 42 by 9, I think it will give you an error. Or at least it was giving you an error when I wrote this.
Yeah, value
Yes.
must be equal or greater to 10. Because then I think it falls in the programming on the tactical guide doesn't allow that to go in lower than they figure. If you're less than that, then you're falling into one of the other categories.
Exactly. Exactly. But again, in this particular repair, I don't know that the other equation would work, which is what brought me into the tactical guide.
Right.
So comparatively, if we went to so click over to the crease, because I think the round dent stops at 30 inches, doesn't it?
13 inches on the round.
Oh, okay.
So that
So
would be a
round is out.
13-inch round diameter dent. And then crease in the tactical guide goes, yeah, all the way up to, looks like 60 inch.
60. So if we were going with cumulative damage here, we would have 42 inches across, and then 12 inches up would be 54, and then another 10 inches would be, again, pushing the limits of here, call it 64. But we can already see that I don't think anybody on a Dodge Ram is going to pay $3,100 to change that door, right?
Yeah, to fix the door. I'm pretty sure probably putting a skin on it. Well, let's see. Let's take a look. So if the labor rate was $50, you're roughly looking.
I think we're at 52, I believe, is where this was written.
Okay. So
if that affects it.
If we put that in there, then yeah, we're looking at just shy of $1,200 to put a skin on that. And this was a black truck, so odds of them blending are pretty slim.
Actually, it was a super dark blue, the darkest blue they make.
All right, so then it's a possibility of blending being involved, which would then get added over the top.
Correct, so. But on the same side in this particular vehicle, both adjacent panels were already damaged, so it's a pretty, I believe, a pretty straightforward 1189 or whatever that comparative number was, right?
Yeah, 1189 is what comparative kind of showed in there. So if we're in the 10 by 10, and if we poked in, you had said 42 by roughly what, 14? I mean, that pokes, pokes us up at 32, 34. Now, did you include some in the factors? Did you add the factors in on that, or just because that number that shot up, then you just kind of use that as a baseline?
Yes. So actually what I did to sort of I want to use the right word here, apply the guide properly, right? Because it is a guide. I think we all need to remember that all of these pricing guides, whether it's a Hail Matrix or a tactical dent or a Paul Corden guide, it's simply a guide that you have to apply to your damage to make it make sense. So what I did, and I'm glad that we talked about this while I was writing it, I did go into the 10 by 10. And if you saw, I think when you were showing sort of the back end, I think shallow is like $5.50 a square inch is what the default price is. Instead of going with that length, what I did is I sort of mapped it out. So we had 42 inches by approximately 2 inches tall. So I had 84 square inches. And then on the rear side of the door, for the sake of round numbers, let's say 10 inches tall by 6 inches wide, which would be 60 additional square inches. And then maybe a 4 by 10 area on the front of the door for a grand total of 184 square inches. So let's see what is that, 12 by 12, 12 by 13? Maybe try 12 by 14 on your equation.
So at 12 by 14, that's going to run us, it shoots out a price of around $924.
Right.
That is before adding any factors in.
Exactly. Any factors, and also that doesn't include any R&I, right? So to repair this door, it was a full gut removal off the truck, up on a stand, all the way to go.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'm honestly not a user of comparative pricing. That's just I let the head trash get in my way, and I feel I'm dialed in enough with the body shop pricing that I figure $1,200-$1,500 is what I figure for a door skin on that truck. And looking at comparative pricing, we're right there.
So, all right, well, let's just go back and reiterate a little bit of what you did here and how you come up with that height and width. Is you figured it just strictly on square inches. So you, and when we post this video, you'll see he made the measurements and he put lines at the front of the damage and the back of the damage. And this is something that I've talked about many times on these webinars, is documentation of the damage, having that marker and marking the extremes, the both ends of that damage. And then you put it all out into square inches. You took your height and your width and you multiplied it, and then square inches. And then you're using the 10 by 10, which is only in the tactical dent guide, as a square inch marker. So a 10 by 10 would obviously be 100 square inches. And you figured out what you needed to be to put that in as height and width, not the actual measurement of the dent itself, but actually using it in a square inch format.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, I think you said that way more eloquently than I could.
I've learned to be able to speak dent guide to computer programmer, so I'm learning.
Perfect. Good. Great transition. Yes, that is exactly what I did. Right. It's, again, trying to figure out how to apply the guide to make it make sense. Because if the adjuster walks in and I tell him I want $3,100 to fix this door, our conversation is over. Right. Yeah. He's back out the door and gone.
By doing this as a square inch formulation, you've now come up with a realistic repair price. The price that we're seeing pop up, you know, with everything without factors, is $924 on the screen. So that's a pretty realistic price. You also, when you come up with this price, then you need to compare that with that damage and say, yes, I am comfortable repairing it for that cost.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So yes. Now, did you add any factors in on this?
So on this one, I've actually got my notes right in front of me. So I didn't, because knowing what the inside of these doors look like, that the brace is not a ridiculously difficult brace, I wasn't really adding any factors to the 42-inch part of the damage, right? I knew that was a pretty straightforward to deal with. However, I did have some double panel, call it 6 inches and 8 inches. So I had about 14 inches of true double panel damage right at the edge of the door.
Okay.
The way I work that, whether I'm in the tactical guide here or the regular Paul Corden Price-A-Dent, when I have complex damage like this, I won't apply a double metal 25% upcharge to the whole panel.
Okay.
Right, not to the whole panel. Right, it doesn't. Okay. It doesn't make sense, and it's also not necessarily justifiable in my book because it's not the whole panel. So I will look at. So I'll actually back out, and I would look at 14 inches of regular damage. You know, so whether that's so if you went to round, actually.
So if we go into round, and we go 14 inches, or I guess we're going to do crease.
Okay, so crease 14 inches. And then I would look at, so 25% on an $800 repair is $200. So I would have added as a line item on our 10 by 10 thing, $200 as my upcharge for being double panel over 14 inches. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we had what, 14 by 12 here?
Yes.
not 1,000. And then you added then a $200 for
or double panel.
okay. Now, where did you add that? You added that in as a just a separate line item on that, or did you add it into like the miscellaneous category?
So I'm trying to remember exactly how I did it on this truck. What I will do on when I'm using like the Paul Corden side is I will add it as a line item under a small ding and then give myself a custom note on
Okay.
that.
So if we come back here, we can say the small dent, and then we're going to edit that and add it as, in this particular case, your mathematics come out to $200. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to go ahead and add the note over here. And you said approximately how many inches?
14 inches of double panel repair.
Okay. And then that's going to, so this is how that's going to read out. So we'll take a little pause here, and I'm going to bring this up on the print preview. Oh. And let's take a look at exactly what Gene had and how it wrote out. So on this front door, then we show our 12 inches by 14 inches of the dent, and then 14 inches of double panel repair, and added that small ding in as $200. So that gave you your full price of around $1,100 on that door.
Exactly.
And also by doing it and wording it this way, obviously, you know, I just threw it in there in the heat of the moment, unpracticed, and we can have it all in. But by following with what Gene is saying, if you're negotiating with an insurance adjuster or you're discussing this and giving the workflow to your customer, you're itemizing everything out in a language they can understand. They can realistically understand how you measured that out, and then you come up with X square inches in there. Also, when you explain that the front and back lips of that door, you can open the door and show that that is a double skinned area, and why it is that you are charging a double panel specifically for that location. It really breaks everything down where everybody that you're dealing with can understand this. And this is really why I wanted to have you, Gene, on this webinar with me to discuss this, because I would have not, as a dent guy, I would have overlooked this in writing this. And this is a very detailed format of putting in lots of information right within Mobile Tech RX and making it understandable for every party that reads it.
Exactly. Exactly. And even just taking the time to document out your damage like this, really, John, when the adjuster came in to go over this truck with me, the process could not have gone any smoother. Like there was no argument. He was able to look at all of our diagrams and see. He's like, oh yeah, I see that. Oh, we didn't. In fact, they missed the scratch on the cab corner in the initial estimate.
Yeah, you kind of killed all the counter arguments early on, because of documentation. So that goes straight. So let's talk about this. So this kind of covers how you did a huge door smash, but when you got into the box side, because that deer ran pretty much the full length of that box side. So did you break the box up and say front of the box or rear of the box, or did you do the box as a whole?
Wow. So I really struggled with the box. So, and again, you guys are going to want to definitely go see the damage we're talking about here. The first thing I did when I initially looked at this truck is took some photographs and a little bit of documentation and started consulting with some of the body shops we service to see whether they're going to write this bedside for repair or for replacement. And they really came in about 50-50. The be-all end-all decision to replace the bed was at the technician's discretion, is what the body shops they said. They said, it depends on what body man wants to fix this truck. Some of them are comfortable fixing it. Others are going to just want to cut it off. We looked up, and can we pull up comparative pricing on here? Let's see how. So I had a $3,000 number in my head for bedside replacement.
All right. Well, let's get down here on the box side. So, in comparative pricing, if we actually look up here in the information, we'll see that a box side is figured at roughly around 10 hours of repair time plus refinish. So, and that's because comparative pricing is mostly wrote for hail. It's pretty rare that they're going to get into replace for hail.
Hmm.
So you were dealing directly with your body shop, and you knew their option is replace, and the body shops that you and your customer deal with.
Correct. Exactly.
So this
Exactly.
kind of goes into something that I brought up on not only on these webinars, but and that's knowing your market. And I mean, that could be a whole nother webinar just in itself. You
Right.
understand the people. If you're in an area that all of the shops do a cave and a pave, and that's kind of an area where I live. I live in rural South Dakota, and guys don't cut off. They'd rather just mud. So we kind of had to do a happy medium when we built this comparative pricing. But you know your market, you know the shops that you're at. They would have replaced this, especially for this deer hit. So yeah, getting those hours, I think a box side roughly pays around 9 hours of conventional time plus the refinish time. So
Okay.
kind of keep that
Yes.
in mind when you're looking at some of these in comparative pricing. And we are in the future going to make comparative pricing a bit more flexible into that.
Nice.
I want to address one quick comment here. Andrew Ray, you've asked that naming small ding to whatever we wanted. That's actually possible when you do the build your own Price-A-Dent. And I actually have a tutorial video on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel on how to build your own Price-A-Dent. And you can actually do in the factors section, and you can go ahead, and I'm not, let me get back up into here. And down here on the tactical dent guide, they have a manufactured access, and it's a dollar line. If you do a build your own matrix, you can actually make that markup read whatever you want it to read. So in Gene's case, as what was discussed here, if you're not comfortable with the tactical dent guide or the Paul Corden guide and you make your own, you can actually have one labeled square inch double panel. And then you could assign whatever dollar value you want to each square inch of that. As you know, the way Gene described it and the way he placed it made it very simple to do those mathematics. So you could redo this manufactured access in a build your own format. Ours are a direct copy. The tactical dent guide, the reason why you can't adjust the tactical dent guide or any of those put in is those dent guides are given out by their prospective makers to the public at large. So we included it exactly as wrote into Mobile Tech RX. So I hope that explains your question a little bit there, Andrew. Okay, so let's get back into the box side. Like you said, this is a very complex area of the box side. We've got damage that is what, 6 feet long?
Yeah, 6 feet. So I did cumulative inches. Just the number stuck in my head. There wasn't really anywhere to plug it in. It was like 275 cumulative inches of damage, right? So I think if you do quick math on that, it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is that? 275 times 50 plus $100 is like, I don't know, $13,000 to plane to that bedside, right? So again, if we hit them with our numbers, if we just use the guide the way it says to use it and extrapolate it out, it doesn't work. So let me get back to my damage here.
So yeah. Oh shoot. My bad. 1,027. So
Oh,
yeah,
right. I
if we
like
put
your
in
56,000 is a good number.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. If I put in 27 for a height and 10 for a width, that's 270 square inches.
So that's square inches, not linear inches.
Yeah, and that's what we're dealing with on the box side because of the massive size.
Correct. And it literally, again, just like that back door is front to back damage. So I had, so I honestly think what I ended up doing on the bedside was just shooting for my $3,000 mark. So I just started punching numbers in to the height and width until we got up around $3,000.
And we want to go.
Yeah, we're maybe 20.
Yeah, here, let's so that gets us right within the system, about 2750.
Right, and that's 500 square inches of damage, right? I believe 20 times 25. If I'm, yeah, 400, 500. Yeah, that's 500 square inches of damage. And honestly, that probably doesn't work. But that's just where it came down to knowing my market, knowing the body shops, and the sort of the dollars we were going after.
Yeah.
I needed to have something on paper to show the insurance company, and with the photographs, I had the documentation. That's honestly how I came to the bedside.
Okay.
Linear was out, crease was out, actual square inches were
Which
out.
was completely off. So you kind of come up with a compromise in knowing that. Now, one of the things that I've put in here on some of these, and when you're a lot of times when I'm marking something along these lines, I will come in here and add some of these markups, but then zero it out, just so I've made another note on that line when we get back into the print preview on there. That way it shows what all the information. I've documented all of the information about that panel. Like here on the screen, you see, you know, it's 25 inches by 25 inches. It's shallow dent, high strength steel, you know, and we can make those and you know, work that math around a little bit. But if you want to not add that percentage, add that 25% or anything like that, I like to mark those and then just zero out that slider, just so I have that marker on there.
That's a great idea. There's my win from the webinar today. That's a new trick for Gene for estimating.
Yeah, I
guess I
do
never
it just
thought of that.
so I always keep that markup into it, and if needed, I might go into and add a note that says the markup was included. And let me see if this was the one. Yeah. So
Oh, okay.
this account here, I have several test accounts, but this account here, I made the text replacement in here that just says MI, means markups included in total. So then when I'm going back and I'm looking at my sheet as though the customer is going to see it or the insurance adjuster is going to see it, we see there we've got our 20-inch
I see that.
high strength steel, and the markups are included in the total. So it is one way to help document everything that you're doing, especially when your numbers, like what Gene's talking about here, those numbers are so far off of panel replacement that you are in, it can be fixed. What is my go number? And that's essentially where you were at on this box side, right, Gene?
That's exactly it. So I said, you know, I'm like, well, if we're talking about $3,000-ish, give or take, on this bedside, you know, I really went dent by dent or section by section on the panel. And I'm like, well, there's really nothing here that I can't fix. And then is it worth my time to sit there and for the dollars for replacement, work on fixing that bedside? And I said yes, and went after it, and I think it came out great. But
yeah,
yeah,
it's real awesome repair. And we'll try to put that video here on the Mobile Tech Facebook page as well. But I hope this really kind of helps a lot of you guys understand what it is in the Tactical Dent Guide when you are seeing that 10 by 10 and how you can use that into a format. And you can use it to do those square inches and use that as the basically height times width as your overall square inches. So when you measure out a monster dent, now this was a deer hit, so this was kind of a what I refer to as a soft body type dent, because you know, had they hit a guardrail, it would have been completely different type of damage. but the
Sure.
deer has a soft body. It kind of cushions. It doesn't destroy that intrusion beam, but it makes huge, huge pancake dents. And then you've got those crowns at all of the extremes. At the far ends of each of that is kind of a crown and that hard line. Now, did yours have the hard line from where the panel double panels?
Yes. Yeah. That was specifically the 14 inches of double panel damage on that door we talked about. That's
Yeah.
exactly the damage we were fixing.
And that's where your markup kind of came into place as you figured out the mathematics within the tactical dent guide on here. We look at 100 square inches equals $550 according to the guide. So then you figure it up by the square inch, figure up. And I think that's a pretty fair assessment when you are doing what it takes to clean up that edge of the panel there in that double panel zone.
Exactly. It really worked out. It really worked out well. One of the things we haven't touched on that really makes the tactical price guide work here is we can change panel by panel how we're doing these estimates. So on these two panels, we talked about the 10 by 10 measurement. The right front fender, the panel it started on, was a simple 10-inch round dent. Like there was nothing to do. And on the Paul Corden matrix, there's no way to move in between how you're measuring things out. So that was one of the things I really liked is I was able to apply round and crease and 10 by 10 all together.
All on the same vehicle.
All on the same Exactly. That's a huge advantage to the tactical guide.
All right. Yeah. Hey, I really like that you brought that up because it's something, as somebody who tests a lot inside of mobile tech, you can't add different matrices onto the same estimate. You get one mathematical format. And the beauty of the tactical dent guide is it actually has multiple mathematical formulations all in the same dent guide. So yeah, you're running one different set. You're running a round set of measurements off of the fender because its damage was smaller and right within a normal matrix, and everything else that was extreme, you got to run in using square inches. So
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's very good information.
Perfect. Well, that's sort of how we did it. And then, at the end of the day, writing this kind of damage, I guess this isn't necessarily Mobile Tech RX specific, but it's just like at bedside. You have to sit back and say, can I fix this damage? And two, will I fix this damage for these kind of dollars? Where's my bottom line? I had a number in my head walking into the truck, and the number the insurance company got to was within $300, and we shook hands and fixed the truck and made a great repair and kept the customer, for the most part, out of the body shop. There's a little paint damage on the bedside they had to address, but
okay.
It's a
So
win.
did you find that you needed to make a little compensation on that box side to make sure that there was, you weren't beyond replacement cost by the time they included the refinish?
So I simply just work inside of their estimate, right? So when the insurance company gives me their estimate, again, educate yourself on how to read an estimate and make sure they're writing it properly. And at the end of the day, I just changed my estimate to match theirs to the penny.
Okay.
To do business, I'm just not gonna waste time over a couple $100s.
So at some point you have to measure your time and its value. So.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I really want to say thanks, Gene. Let me scroll through here on the Facebook feed and see if we have any other questions. It look like we're all, I think we kind of answered everything from everybody. So, I really want to thank you for coming in, really explaining how you use that and broke that tactical dent guide down. I really hope that helps you guys out there truly understand what that means and how you can use those portions inside of those guides as guides, but also the formulations into them and do this complex damage. So
exactly. And like we said earlier, Paul Corden preaches this too. You have to justify it. You have to document it and justify it if you want to be able to work with these insurance companies and do this kind of work.
Especially when we're getting into these big smashes. This isn't like your normal door dent stuff. So this is going to fall into an insurance category. You actually worked with insurance companies on this repair. And I think sometimes as dent guys, we lose track, and we think of our world as doing simple door dents, customers paying by a credit card or a check, and that's it. But when we're getting into a world of big smashes and what this Price-A-Dent is capable of doing for you, you're going to need to be able to document that out and work with the insurance companies. And documentation here, and I really appreciate you coming on and helping describe how you document such a complex damage. And we'll try to get that video linked up and attached to it as well, so you guys can
really get as soon as we get off here, I'll jump on it and post a before and after up in the group. So
all right,
perfect.
Well, I hope this really answers a lot of questions for everybody out there. I want to once again just say thank you to Gene for coming in and spending some time with us today, and take care, everybody.
Perfect, John. Thanks for having me on. I hope guys picked up some tips there.
I think they did.
Good.
See y'all.